for those of you who don't know me, which is probably most of you, I'm Father John Summers. You can just call me Father John, of course. And what I really want to have is a discussion today that allows you to get kind of a concept, an idea of how to live Orthodox life every day with your parents in your house, okay? So now, to do that, because I don't want to just sit up here and talk to you guys. I mean, you guys are like 10 to 13. I don't want to just give you a lecture, which I could, but I want to, I'm going to ask you questions, and I want you to feel free to answer them. So when you answer your question, make sure you raise your hand. Make sure that only one person is talking at a time. Maybe tell me your name. When say my name is the first time. Say my name is, and you say your first name, and then ask me the question. Okay? Or if you're answering a question. All right, guys. All right. So I'm going to start out with a funny set of questions, right? Or they might seem funny to you. So somebody raise their hand and tell me what the first thing that they do is when they wake up in the morning. You had your hand up first, Dimitri. Go ahead.
Well, what I do first in the morning is I wake up kind of tired, stay in a few minutes, and then I get up, brush my teeth, and then I just start going on my iPad.
Get up and going on the iPad. Okay, so things people do. So people do. We'll make a little list here, actually. Get up, brush teeth. That should be 2 words. And then to the iPad. And you'll all notice I capitalized the second letter there, as it should be, right? Nobody's going to get that joke. All right, Nicholas. Oh, sorry.
I just wake up in the morning and then just get some clothes on and go downstairs and watch TV and just sit there until school starts and then go on my bike.
I see. Okay, so you get up and then you close and watch TV to school. Right. Okay. Good. Somebody else. Anna Maria.
I get up, brush my teeth, wash my face, and do my prayers.
Very good. Okay, so get up, brush your teeth, and do prayers. Very good. I'm so happy that so many of you brushed your teeth. That's really good. Yeah, right, exactly. Yes, young lady in the back. Yeah, what's your name? Ksenia, okay.
When I get up in the morning, I brush my teeth, just like they all said. And then I say my prayers and eat my holy bread and drink my holy water.
Okay, good. So she gets up, brushes her teeth, prayers. Those little lines mean the same thing as above, right? Yeah. And then eat holy bread, right? Eat Intitron. Very good. One more. Kira's going to rip her arm off. Go ahead, Kira.
Thank you. Okay, so I wake up. I'm very lazy because I go to bed very late. I wake up, have my adidero.
Okay.
I don't have a yesma because I don't have it. And then you do your prayers in the morning, like always. And then I get my clothes on.
So you try to do your prayers, but sometimes it doesn't work out, right?
Because I'm very tired and lazy.
Okay. All right. I'm glad honesty is always a good thing. Yeah, I know, really. So it's actually really good what you described, though, because it's a problem that we all struggle with. So you said that you get up, you're really tired, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong, by the way, right? You're really tired. Then you try to do your prayers, right? Oh, right. The Antidro, right? And you said you would have ayasmo, but you don't have it. Holy water.
Yeah, I would, but I don't have it.
Right. So you would have holy water.
But I would drink it from my own cup because I don't like sharing this life.
Okay. And then that was it. That was all you said, right?
And then I try to do my prayers, but I'm very...
Oh, right. Try to do the prayers. But really what you mean when you say lazy is that you're tired.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So let's stop there for a second. So So it's interesting that nobody mentioned breakfast, and I'm thinking to myself, like I'm a parent. Oh wait, so you do eat breakfast? All right, raise your hand if you eat breakfast. Okay, good. Wait. There's a reason I'm asking you this. Hold on a second. One at a time. So then after all this, right, you try to eat breakfast.
Except for Sunday morning.
Well, yeah, of course. Right. Very good. And do you guys eat lunch too? Raise your hand if you eat lunch. Okay, remember to talk after you're called on, okay? Raise your hand if you watch lunch, yeah. Eat lunch. Okay. And I know there's an H there, I just stopped reading. And then how many of you eat dinner? Okay, good. All right. So here's what I want to say. Everyone stop talking, please. So here's what I want to say. How would you feel? Now, sometimes I know kids miss breakfast. I remember when I was a kid, my mother would, go crazy trying to get me to eat breakfast. And I just didn't want it for some reason. But you really should eat breakfast, right? You ever notice that when you eat breakfast, you feel better? Yeah? What's that? Yeah, well, those are not mutually exclusive, right? You can wake up early and still eat breakfast, right? Now, quiet down, remember to raise your hand when you talk. How many of you, if you didn't eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, how many of you would feel bad? Raise your hand. The whole day you didn't eat and you didn't drink. Come on, guys, seriously? Okay, all right. So here's what I want to say to you, listen carefully. Just like we have to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we have to pray evening, morning, and noonday, like David says in the Psalms. Right? So in the Psalms, and we'll stop and talk about what that is if you guys don't know what that is. But in the Psalms, the prophet David says, evening, morning, and noonday have I praised thee. Okay? Evening, morning, and noonday have I praised thee. So just like you want to feed, we want to eat morning, noon, and night, or evening, morning, noonday to keep the same pattern, right? So too, because we have a soul, and the soul is the highest part of us, right? We have to nourish ourselves with prayer 3 times a day. I don't mean we have to have really long prayers, but we want to try to pay attention and to pray first, morning, and night, and then a short little prayer somewhere in the middle of the day where we can find time for it. And we want to look for time for it. Any questions about that? Someone I haven't spoken to yet. Yes, Joseph.
Out of all those, what is the most important time for prayer?
You mean like if you had to choose?
Yes.
It's kind of a difficult question because they're all important, right? Yeah. The morning might be really important, right? Because that's how you start your day, right? So like, did someone just say that's how you start your day at the same time? That's cool if you did. That's how you start your day, right? So if you start your day and you're not focused on God, then everything after that is going to be more difficult, right? So in one sense, the morning might be the most important. But in connection with that, I want to come over to Kira, and I want you to repeat what you said about how you feel when you get up.
Well, how I feel when I get up is I'm very tired, and I don't feel like doing anything because,
right.
You wake up and you just want to snooze in bed all day.
Why are you so tired? And by the way, I'm not picking on you. Like, all of us have had that experience, right? You just happened to mention it, so I'm going back to you. Hold on one second. I'll be right with you, Anna Marie. Why, honestly, why are you so tired?
Because I go to bed really late.
Right, exactly. So on the one hand, Joseph, we might want to say, I can erase this stuff. You guys know what you do, right? Okay. So we might want to say, well, the morning is the most important because that's the way you're going to start your day spiritually and otherwise, right? And it's true that the morning is really, really important. But in order to have, let's see if you guys are paying attention. Actually, I'll have Anna Maria try to answer this question. In order to have a good morning and be able to say our prayers, what do we really have to do beforehand, Anna Maria? To not be tired, to not be dragging ourselves out of bed.
Go to bed early.
Right. So what we begin to see is that everything depends on each other. Each part of the day depends on the other part of the day, right? So in the morning, in order to get up early and to do our prayers, right, and to say them with attention and not drag ourselves out of bed, we have to make sure that the evening, the nighttime, is set up the right way. Now, one way to set up the nighttime the right way is to go to bed early. Go to bed early. See, the irony of this whole thing is that I didn't get to eat breakfast this morning, so I'm a little out of it, so bear with me. So how else might we make sure... Oh, wait. Now, you had a question, right? Did you have another question on Maria before? Yes. You did. Okay, go ahead and ask the question. I'll tell you if it's not directly related, I'll come back to it. Go ahead.
So my dad usually tells me that when I'm too tired to do my prayers at night, and I'm sitting there reading a book, it's because the devil doesn't want me to do my prayers. Yeah, it's a temptation. Very good. Did everybody hear what she said? That's really important, right? Basically what she said is, actually say it again, say it a little louder. That's not going to help you. That's not making it louder, right? So just, you can face him if you want to a little bit. Okay, so what I said was, usually when I'm too tired to do my prayers, my dad tells me that the devil is tempting me. Are you listening? So I don't do my prayers. Didn't you say you didn't hear it? Yeah, you got to listen. You say it again. He wasn't listening to you. Go ahead, say it again. Say it again. You're listening this time, right? Okay. All right, good. So usually when I'm too tired to go to bed, my dad tells me that if I'm too tired to go to bed and do my prayers, that devil's tempting me. Yes. Did you hear that time? Everybody heard what she said? Because that's really important, right? Because there's some things going on here, and we're going to say this, and then we're going to come back to our little list here. All right? So there's us in the center here, right? By the way, how am I doing on time? Okay? Yeah, right? We're good, right? There's us in the center, if you will. Then we have God, and then we have the devil tempting us. So you have God's will, his will, the devil's will, and our will. And we can choose, like you heard the bishop talking about, hold on 1 second, sweetie, okay? Like you heard the bishop talking about in his talk, we can literally choose to either accept God in our lives or to push him out. Because he loves us so much that he gave us this free will, this gift of free will and free choice. And the way that we learn how to choose are in these little tiny decisions that we make that influence our spiritual lives. So now coming back to the section about the evening, I had asked the question, well, how do we make sure that we have a good morning to get up and say our prayers? Someone said, go to bed early. That's very good. What other things, someone I have not heard from, someone tell me another thing we can do or not do, like to avoid, that the night before so we can have a good morning saying prayers. Someone I haven't heard. I think Jeffrey Pseudomontes. I don't think I've heard from you.
Well, you could avoid like watching inappropriate stuff.
Okay.
Go to bed or
right.
Playing on video games and.
Good. You actually gave us two things. Very good. So you can avoid inappropriate things. And I'm going to add one there. So you can avoid, say, inappropriate shows, which you should actually always avoid. But then you can also avoid watching shows at all, right? So you can avoid shows at all. Now, the other thing Jeffrey pointed out was to avoid playing video games, especially at night. Now, I want to make something clear here. We're not saying that, by saying that, thank you, Jeffrey, by saying that, we're not saying that to simply watch a show is a sin. But what we are saying is, to watch a show when it interferes with what we have to do for God becomes a sin, because it separates us from God. And that's precisely what sin does, is it separates us. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? What's your name, young lady? Zenobia. Okay, very good. Go ahead, Zenobia.
You could also, before you go to bed, do your prayers.
Okay, very good.
So then in the morning, you'll have not as much as a hard time waking up.
Right. Right. Excellent. Right. So what she's saying is we actually have to ask God for help in everything. Right. So to have a good morning, we need God's help. See, because we have free will, but we don't have the strength enough to do what we want fully. We need His grace to give life to our will. Right? Just like you can have a plant, right? It's in the pot, but if you don't water it, it doesn't get sunlight, it's not going to grow, even though the plant's there, planted in the dirt, in the earth, right? So but God's grace is like that water, like that sunlight, right? That's going to help the plant grow. Very good. Very good. Somebody else I have not heard from. Maybe you can help me remember who I haven't heard from. I've heard from them. I haven't heard from Nicholas, I don't think, right? Have I heard from Nicholas? Once. Anybody else I haven't heard from? Hold on a second. That Nicholas. There's another Nicholas. Okay, go ahead, Nicholas. That Nicholas. Oh, you don't have anything to say? Okay. You agree with everything we said? Yeah? Can you think of anything here that you can add at all? So we said go to bed early, avoid inappropriate shows or shows at all, avoid playing video games, do prayers. Yeah, that kind of fits in. Okay, that's it's really good that you said that, especially. Say it again.
Not to play Fortnite.
Not to play Fortnite. We probably should put that in really big letters over here. Not to play Fortnite. Out of curiosity, how many of you play Fortnite? Raise your hands. Oh, then you're violating the rules. Right. I got it. All right, one at a time. We're breaking down here. So raise your hand if you play Fortnite, though. I'm just curious. Good number of you. Okay. Now, there was something, hold on. There was something. All right, guys, listen. I turned 40 this year, and so I don't remember everything really well. So then when you start talking, when I'm talking, I'm like, wait, I wanted to say something, and now I can't remember what it is. Just give me a second. What did I want to say? We said don't play Fortnite. We said do prayers. There's one really big one I think you're probably missing. But there's probably more than one really big one, to be fair. Yeah.
To go to bed peacefully.
Yeah, that's really good, and it's really loaded. Right, so let me move this over a little bit. Go to bed peacefully. Now, immediately, there's a question that comes out of that. That's awesome that you said that. What's your name? Ella. Oh, that's my daughter's name is Ella, one of them. There's a question that comes up from that, because that's really important to go to bed peacefully. What's the question that might arise out of that? Ksenia, do you know? Oh. What question?
The question is, what are you doing the day before the meeting? Like, for instance, since you have a peaceful mind and you're going to sleep, or are you, like...
Go ahead, Joseph.
I've been doing all sorts of things the whole day. It might not help you getting to sleep.
Right. It relates to this question, how to be peaceful. right? And you notice, by the way, guys, that we're not going to settle all of this like a roadmap per se. Like what I'm trying to get accomplished today, I'll come back to you in 1 second, Dimitri. What I'm trying to accomplish today is not to give you a checklist, even though it is a list, but more a set of things to think about so that working with your family, right, and paying attention to yourself, you can become better at living an orthodox life. And what Joseph just said bears on the question of how do we be peaceful? Throughout the day, we do things that distract us, put thoughts in our mind, right? We don't listen to people who told us to do things, right? There's various things that we do that churn up our heart and make it difficult to be peaceful. Now, I told someone I'd come to them next. And who was it? It was you, right? Or was it? No. It was Dimitri. Go ahead, Dimitri. What did you have to say?
Well, I know something else you could avoid.
What's that?
Scary movies.
Okay.
You could get nightmares.
Avoid scary movies, right.
Like Michael Myers and It.
Yes. Avoid scary movies. Okay, I'll take one more question or comment, and then I want to make sure I say something. It's important. It made me think of something. Go ahead, Xenia.
I was just going to say that you have to be disconnected.
Yeah. Right. So, like your shirt, right? Hashtag disconnected. Right. Okay, so now I have a question for you. And in order to answer it, you have to be quiet and listen. Okay? So raise your hand if your parents have told you to do any of these things and then you didn't listen to them. Now, I'm going to raise my hand first because when I was a kid, I certainly fell into the same trap, and I don't want you to think I'm picking on you. This is probably everybody. So my question is, did your parents tell you to do any of these things and you ignored them? Yes or no? Right. So listen. When you're young especially, right? When you're young especially, yeah, you can do fun things.
Test. We'll start soon. How's everybody? How many people do we have here? How many? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. There's supposed to be 40. We still have time. Okay, how about this? Let's just do this for now. Who here is from out of town? Put up your hand. No, we're not saying Pickering or Ajax or. Who's from in town Toronto? You are. Come on, I know you are. Whitby, okay, I know, but in Toronto, and I know you are. Does everybody know each other? Evangelos, stand up. This is Evangelos. Angelo from Toronto, from St. Joseph's Parish. His sister, Ariana. Everybody, Ariana. Claire. Father Panayoti's granddaughter. Claire.
Hi.
Anybody else? We already know you. Magdalene, nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a long time. And that's Isabel. Bella, Isabel. Bella, Isabel. Okay? So, we'll wait 2 more minutes. We're going to have, hopefully, a great talk. And I promise you, it will be an hour. No. If you need to go to the washroom, wait until the hour is up. Okay? Because everybody at your age should have a very good bladder control. I'm just joking. But if it's emergency, you go. But please, I think it'll be a great interactive discussion. All right? Because what is the topic of my talk? Okay? We'll start soon. I know you are. Forgive me, I have to take this off. Can I steal a chair? Very nice. There's some spots right up here. There's some spots right up here. Father Nicholas, thank you for coming. No pressure now. How do you think you have everybody? We went through this before, some of you have just joined, but I wanted to ask, does everybody know everybody? I had someone stand up, no I don't, so I introduced them. So who doesn't know everybody and want to stand up and introduce yourself, or I'll introduce you? I already know you, you know, everybody knows you. Stand up. This is Father Deacon Alexander's daughter. Say hello. She drove all the way with Father Deacon Alexander, how many hours? 11 hours. And look at, Father is still smiling. Anybody else? Sophia, everybody know Sophia? From St. Xenia's camp. Benjamin? Everybody knows Benjamin. Yoria. Fitopoulos. One of the many Fitopouloses. Yoria is here. Forgive me if I mess up your name, because I'm not very good with names. How about the Summers? Does everybody know the Summer family? Gregory, your brother? Look how tall Daniel got. He is Father John Summers' children. Forgive me, I took off my roster because I'm too hot. Yes. So, I think, yeah, I guess so. So welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to Toronto. Forgive me, I know in the first session we were rushed with some of the introductions, but I think this is important for all of us to come together as an Orthodox family around North America. It is good to reconnect, but it's also good to disconnect from the world. All right? So what I want to talk to you today is about modern media and the need to be disconnected. We all need to be connected to our faith, but we also need to be disconnected from modern media for various reasons. I'm going to do a few things different. It won't just be a talk, because When I speak in my other job, I'm used to just walking around. Forgive me, that's just the way I present sometimes. But I hope it's interactive because I want you all to be involved. We have an hour together, and I hope it's something that we can connect to be disconnected. It's very important. So that is our theme, and it's on your sleeves. So we all need to be careful and be vigilant about being disconnected. How many here have your phone on you? Excluding the fathers. So let me just go through a few slides. I want to let you know, in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, Nintendo was popular for us. Pac-Man we used to play. We had remote cars. Some of you ladies had Cabbage Patch dolls, or you inherited Cabbage Patch dolls. A lot of you did church ski trips. We did Kalanda. My generation, we went to Wonderland often. And of course, it continues, we play sports. Now, guess what you have? The World Wide Web. The technology of internet, social media, and also, you guys are growing up in an age where this curriculum, so what you're taught in school is different. Us as parents and fathers really struggle with that because we grew up in a different society. And I think your norm is different than our norm. But I think it's important for you to know how to be disconnected. You also have a lot of things online that I know some of you are on social media. Someone's favorite is Snapchat. I know a lot of you have a lot of smiles going around. However, our faith is important too. We all know that. We have to be cognizant in how we really try our best to disconnect. Social media is something that is not just modern media, because there's times, how many of you sat in a room and we're talking about something and someone says, what about that movie star or something? Who is that? In my day and age, we would say and go, oh, I don't remember. And we would carry on with our conversation. You know what people do? They take this out and they Google it. It's instant. You can get information instantly. Is that good? In some way it is. But is it bad? In some way it is also. Because why do we need things instantly is the question. You need to be cognizant of those things. And as you grow older, what does our faith teach? Patience, virtues. So do we need things instantly? We need to be careful and really need to take things in and absorb our faith, and also be patient with things, because if you need it right away, what does it matter if you don't get it a day later? I remember, and also things about YouTube. You know one thing that YouTube does? When you're watching a YouTube video, the engineers are very smart. You watch a video, what happens next? Another one's ready to reload. Another one's ready. It gets you hooked. Same with anything that you do on your other apps. Instagram, Facebook even. When you go to one link and go to somewhere else, there's another video. And then you go, oh, what's that? Oh, what's that? And next thing you know, you're on it for hours. That's distraction. The one thing that we've got to be careful of is distraction. Another big change, as you all know, is in your schools and high schools, and so it's who's the mother, who's the father, and so forth. In Canada, we have our government that talks about the challenges us parents face regarding that, and that's a little bit more to the adult talk, but where's the family unit in a lot of things, and where's the family unit that we do try to instill within Orthodoxy? Some of you, see? Who would say this is a distraction? How many of you play this? And I'm sorry that you still have your hand up, because I'd be embarrassed to say that you play it for more than an hour sometimes. How many play for it over an hour? 2 hours? 3 hours? Put your hands down. I'm going to tell you one stat that I've read in doing my research around gaming. Your IQ, your smarts, one article goes down after being online 3 hours or more at a time in one day. Good point. that is what is very important. What is very important to understand. Yes, in my day and age, we did have video games. We played sports. You play sports, but a lot of online things you do every day, most of the time, is online. So it's called the dopamine effect. Anybody know what that means? So when you sit down, a lot of people, and a lot of you are active, but a sedentary lifestyle, sitting down, when you see something online, some neurochemical goes off in your brain to kind of get you excited. Oh, there's something. It's like that like, or that what you see online, who you tag, and what social media has done a great, I guess they've done great engineering, but to the fault of society, on knowing that all these things are really to get you really addicted to things. Facebook has an addiction scale, which I'll talk about, but there's an actual rating scale that say that people go in and say, I have Facebook addiction. There's families being split because of that. Children having higher anxiety rates and depression because they're on social media all the time, because they're looking for that dopamine high. You can get that from doing anything, sitting down with your families. You can have that discussion with your friends from the church. Yes, I know a lot of you connect through social media in the church. That is good, but how much, when is it too much is the question. Because where does our faith come into that? I want to do one thing now. Can you move your chairs into somewhat of a semicircle, please? So I need this area cleared. So just no, this side of the room, just do a semicircle. And that side of the room, do a semicircle. No, stay on this side. If you're on this side, stay on this side and do the semicircle here, semicircle here. Come closer. Like that, thank you.
Okay.
All right, and fill the back of the room. Turn it this way.
Oh, okay.
I need you all to kind of circle in here. All right, you're all there? Come to the front too. I'm still going to be using the screen, but it's very important we use this. Father Alexander, Father Nicholas, can I borrow you for 1 minute? I need you to help me move something. One of you come with me. I need you to move this table. Just put it in the middle. Walk this way. So, what we're going to do, this is called the disconnected table. Everybody who has a phone, I want it right on this table. Please. Make sure you know which one is yours. Know which one is your phone, because I don't want anybody complaining. For this session, you will all be disconnected. And one thing I also want to note is the value of this table is probably about $10,000. So we have to also think, why do we always need it? Why do we always need it to be part of us all the time? Being disconnected is something that we need as Orthodox Christians. We need to be careful of things, of social media, gaming. And really, what does it mean to you? I'm going to ask that question. What does that mean to you? Anybody? What does that mean to you, being part of social media? Any thoughts? Anybody? Somebody? What does it mean to you being connected? Why?
Being a part of a community, I guess.
Community. You're in a community right now, correct? Yeah. But when you're home, you like to still be connected, right? Which is fine. Part of the church community is okay. Is we need to strive for balance with those things. But also, we need to be careful of, because games is just part of our life, but sometimes what does it really mean? Sometimes it means, oh, just part of our life. Some will think it's just part of our life. Some will think it doesn't affect me, but some will think, wow, it harms some people. And some are not connected. How many of you here, and you don't have to put up your hands, but I think there's some people here who are not connected, which is great too. I think we need to learn what is our balance. And some people can think, I cannot live without it. I know some people like that. I'm not saying they're part of my family, but I know people at work. My daughters are here. But in general, I understand that. But the one thing you need to understand that sometimes you really don't need it, because it does affect us. I want to give you a quote from Father George Florovsky, and really talks about the need of connecting with God. And I'm just going to read part of it. I won't read it all. But one people has been elected, set apart from all other nations, constituted as a sacred oasis in the midst of human disorder. With one people on earth, and only did God establish his covenant and grant his own sacred law. Here alone, a priesthood has been created. In the nations alone, true prophets were raised who spake words inspired by the Spirit of God. It was sacred. Though hidden, center in the whole world, an oasis is granted by God's mercy. So we need to understand, as a family unit, we are an oasis. We need your family, even as a church family, we are an oasis in God. Connection with God is very important in your upbringing as a teen, 14 to 17-year-olds here. And it's very important, as we know. And also, St. Irenaeus talks, God made the things of time for man, so that coming to maturity in them, he may produce the fruit of immortality. So what is here in these earthly things are temporary. What we see in church is endless, because this life is this life, and we have the life in the kingdom of heaven. Another thing from St. John Chrysostom, who talks, for just as we as general, his soldiers also are well organized, the enemy has not quartered to attack. So I say it is also here. When a husband and wife and children and servants are all interested in the same things, great is the harmony of the house. So in your home, we all, every family, yes, you don't want to connect with your parents. Sometimes they're not happy with you, and sometimes they have a bad day, because everybody has a bad day. But when there's harmony in the house, you know God's present. And we all have temptations with those things. Those things sometimes give us greater temptations. And that's why in certain times we got to be careful and try to be disconnected. So we also strive to live a life in Christ, or you have to choose to live a life in Christ, which means trying to keep it balanced, being connected to the church and your faith, reading and so forth, or the spirit of the Antichrist. In the spirit of the Antichrist, who can say what the spirit of the Antichrist is? Could you say those things are potentially part of it? When they talk about the Antichrist, the end of the world, it's not just something's going to end. It's everything outside of God that influences us, that distracts you. Things that you continue to not do that's following our faith. We have to strive a balance. Of course, I know Metropolitan Moses talked about being like St. Euronymous, prayer constantly praying, glorification. Yes, we should strive to all that, but we also live in society, and we need to strive for that balance. And the more you pray, the more you are closer to God, which is very important in our faith. So we need to strive to look for a balance. And what's that balance in our life as we try to connect with our church, connect with your friends spiritually, but also reading your prayers.
Yeah, so we left off saying that if you notice, the Jesus prayer there's two parts to it, even in all of its forms. And the first part is a confession of faith, when we say our Lord Jesus Christ. And then the second part is a call for mercy, right? Reminding us of the humility that we ought to have as Orthodox Christians. And then we said that lent itself very well to especially as an aid for midday prayer, because it's something we can do anywhere. Very good. Okay, so, I wanted to read a little passage to you from the life of the elder Hieronymus of Aina, which the bishop was speaking about in his talk. This is a section from the life of the elder Hieronymus of Aina that talks about how his mother was with him and the pattern of life they followed. And again, the reason I'm reading this to you, this will sound very strict and disciplined, and it is, and it was. It's not necessarily that you do exactly the same things, but rather that you have it before you as an ideal to follow. What's an ideal? What does the word refer to? Joseph?
An ideal is something that you hopefully happen, and something that you will hopefully one day achieve.
Right. It's like the best example or the highest expression of something. Right? Very good. So listen carefully to this passage. Talking about his mother. That deep faith and burning love for prayer that she possessed, that is the elder Hieronymus' mother, she sought to plant in her children. Every day, she would assign them by turn, today one and tomorrow another, to read the 6 Psalms, a supplicatory canon, Vespers and Compline, besides other soul-profiting readings. They said their prayers together and then went to bed, so that very early next morning, at the crack of dawn, they would hear, "Get up now, time for prayer." She endeavored to instill this sacred pursuit in them from childhood, so that they would become accustomed to it and progress in the spiritual life. Now, there's so much in that little paragraph, right? But the first thing I want to emphasize, which we haven't emphasized yet, and this refers back to families, right, is we've talked about the need to pray, but there's one really important piece related to families we have not talked about. Cindy, you want to give a try at it? Or you have something else to say? That keeps happening to you. Sorry. That's all right. Hold on one second then. So what's the other piece that we haven't talked about? We talked about the importance of prayer. We talked about all these things we should do to help us do it. But in the family, what haven't we mentioned thus far? Jeffrey, I haven't heard as much from you. Well, that's true, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something that we do, something practical. Xenia. That's true. And you're getting warmer, and well, I don't know, it's part of it. So forgiveness is there, especially at the end of the night, right? Because the Apostle Paul says, "Let not the sun go down on your anger." So we want to ask mutual forgiveness of each other in prayer, which means we have to be doing prayer how? With love, okay? But if I were to sit there, let's say I'm saying my prayers by myself. Here's my icon corner. I say my prayers, right? And now I want to ask forgiveness. I'm by myself. What's the problem? Young lady, what's your name? Wait, that's your name? Okay. I mean, that's a beautiful name. But he had said Trinity too, so I was a little confused there for a second. Okay, go ahead. Precisely. Right. So all the prayers, well, especially morning and night. The midday is obviously harder, right? But morning and evening prayer, I can spell morning, I promise, should be together. And notice that in order for that to work, everybody has to work together. Because all these things we've talked about, right? Not playing Fortnite, avoiding video games. I think it's funny that Fortnite has a special mention, right? Avoiding shows, avoiding TV, avoiding sin. We all have these patterns, but we all have these patterns in some ways very differently. So if we don't work together to be watchful for that time to pray, then not only will it be difficult for us to say our prayers individually, it will be difficult for us to say our prayers together as a family. And it's so important because our Savior says, where 2 or 3 are praying together, there I am in the midst of them. Does that make sense, everybody? Right? So we see from the passage from the elder Hieronymus, from his life, that not only is there the same patterns of prayer observed, morning, evening, and noonday, and even other things added in for him actually, because they have how strict they were, but that it's happening together, right? And one other little part to that. So we've talked about a day, evening, morning, and noonday, right? But we have to be able to do the pattern every day, right? How many of you have had the situation happen as a family or by yourselves where you started doing your prayers and you started doing the morning and night, and maybe you started doing a long set of prayers and you did them for like a few days or something like that, and then all of a sudden it stops. Something happens, you get sick, there's too much at school, something's going on that's bad, and you get knocked off track. Raise your hand if that's happened to you. Yeah, it's happened to me, and I'm a priest, so I know it must, right. So there's a couple of things there that are really important when you get knocked off track. Just relax, it's a good exercise in patience. I know you have a question. Put your folder down. Okay. Put your hand down too. There are 2 things about that. So when you get knocked off track, I'm going to erase the Fortnite business and put it over here. Okay. So 2 things to remember. Listen. When you get knocked off track, and it will happen, first, get right back up and start again. Right? Because the temptation is to feel like that's just too hard. I can't do that. Put your hands down for a second. I want you to let this marinate. Do you guys know what that means, to marinate? Yeah. Take meat and put it in some... Yeah, okay, good. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. You guys know what listen carefully means, right? Do you presently? Yes or no? Yes, you do, Jeffrey. Yeah, I think you do. So let's try it, okay? All right. So, when you get knocked off, start again. You'll feel tempted to get discouraged, like, this is too much to do, I can't do this, and to give up. You start again. And the second piece to that, though, make sure the rule of prayer that you're using, and you have to do this with your confessor and your parents, is reasonable to do on a daily basis. It's more important, listen, this is really hard, people always miss this. It's better to do fewer prayers regularly and being able to pay attention to them than to do a whole bunch of prayers you can't do regularly and you can't pay attention to, that you just blow through, blah, 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 and then you're not paying attention. Does everybody understand that? Yes. Raise your hand if you understand that. Oh, of course. Okay, so somebody tell me in their own words what I just said and why and what the reasoning was. So, little test. When you get knocked off track, you all told me you understood it. So, when you get knocked off track, 2 things to bear in mind are what? Xenia, go ahead. You were going to say something else?
Oh, not really.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say that if you try and it's really hard, God will help you. Mm-hmm. Trying to say your prayers together, God will help you.
Right. Absolutely. So it did happen to you again. You wanted to say something else. Who wants it? So you guys all said you understood. It's real simple, guys. So when you get knocked off track, and this might be the most important thing to say, because this is going to happen. When you get knocked off track, I just summarize what I said. First thing, Jeffrey.
Forget what you were trying to do and do something else?
Kind of. So when you get knocked off track, you just start again, guys. You just get right back up. Okay? Metaphorically speaking. Well, I mean, you don't want to just lie there on the ground if you happen to trip in real life, right? And that's actually a good way to put it. If I trip right now and I fall flat on my face, which would be after you all laughed, right? And I kind of laughed, right? I'm not bleeding or anything, not like a bad trip, just kind of a little bit trip, right? And I fall on my face, and what am I going to do if I fall down on the ground? I'm going to get back up. I'm not going to stay there. It would be absurd. Wait, listen. It would be absurd to stay there on the ground, right? It would be ridiculous, right? So you want to get right back on track. And the other thing, though, is that you have to have the rule of prayer should be reasonable. Okay, I think we can end there. Does that make sense to you, Dean? Yep. And it's time anyway, right?
Let's thank Father John for coming. Thank you,
kids. A very good discussion.